The Kreutzer Dialogue by Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy and Sofia Andreevna Tolstaya. Adaptation by Eran Preis. Content warning. This play deals with domestic violence. For more information on resources available through Temple University, please visit www.sexualmisconduct.temple.edu. On the Train from Moscow, 1880.
The question of divorce is now occupying public opinion in Europe and more in Russia. These things didn't happen in the old days, did they?
Well, sir. Well, sir, they did happen, but less often. Nowadays, it can't help but to happen. People have become so educated.
What's wrong with education? Would it really be better to marry as in the old days when the bride and the groom had never even seen each other? They didn't know if they loved each other or could love each other. They married whoever happened along and suffered all their lives. Do you think this is better?
That's not supposed to happen. You have to be on the lookout.
And if it does, you know what happens.
Well, it happens to some, but not people like us.
Yes, sir, I'm reading in the paper here about quite a scandal with one of our most honored men. They write here about a pre-trial investigation. It involved a loose woman. She began acting like a devil. The much older husband was steady and mature. She went after an old friend of his. The husband tried kindness. She wouldn't stop. She did all sorts of nasty things. She began running away and he beat her. But she just got worse. She even carried on with this friend, if I may say so. But what could he do? Kill her.
Because he was a fool. If he'd given her less leeway right from the start, if he'd disciplined her as he should have, she'd still be with him. She would. You cannot give him freedom at the outset. Don't trust your horse in the field or your wife in the house.
And what was the investigator's decision?
They let him go. We have in front of us a pure case of a deceived husband who killed to defend his outraged honor. We find him innocent and acquitted.
Yes, sir, you have to reign in the female sex, sir. All else is lost.
A papa right out of the Old Testament. Yes, indeed. We Russians are far from sharing the European view of marriage.
The main thing that such people don't understand is that marriage without love isn't really marriage, that only love sanctifies marriage, and the only true marriage is one sanctified by love.
I see that you haven't discovered who I am.
No, I haven't had the pleasure.
It's no great pleasure. I'm Prince Przeorsky. I'm the man they wrote about. The man who killed his wife. Perhaps you find it unpleasant to sit with me now that you know who I am. If so, I'll leave. Well then. Would you like some tea? It's very strong. They talk, and they always tell lies. Always about the same thing, this love of theirs and what it is. Do you want to sleep? If you like, I'll tell you how that love led to what happened to me.
Yes, if it's not too painful for you.
No, it's more painful to keep silent. Drink some tea. Or is it too strong?
Well, it is more like beer.
Well then, I'll tell you what happened to me. You really want to know?
Forgive me, sir.
Yes, madam.
Olga Pavlovna, the mother of his murdered wife.
Oh, Yevgeny Dimitrov.
Forgive me, sir, for interfering, but I had to. The story that this prince is about to tell you is directed against my daughter and me, and has already done us a great wrong and brought us humiliation. My daughter has never betrayed this man with so much as gesture or glance at another man. Whether or not she has had it in her heart to love another man, or whether or not it was a struggle for her, is a different matter. I used to think that it was her business. I used to think that no one in the world had the right to pry into her secret so long as she'd remain pure. But now that this man is telling you his side of the story, I have decided to tell you hers, and you'll be the judge.
The Prince in Love, Anna's story. Walking home from the lake, my sister Natasha and I were walking barefoot, holding our shoes in our hands. Our feet sought for the safest spots among the sharp stones.
Be careful, someone might see us.
So what? Is it embarrassing? We are in the country. You know country women go barefoot.
Quickly, and it hurts to walk.
It might be easier to run.
What's wrong, Anna?
Natasha and I were swimming and we tried walking barefoot. I didn't know you'd come. Hello, Prince. I'll be back in a moment.
My goodness. How nice it is here. How pleasant.
Prince Bozorsky, my dearest friend, was about 45 years old. He has known our children since their birth and watched their growing up with pleasure.
And the youth, look at them. Our youth has passed, but no one can keep us from admiring it.
Yes, but do you think they notice it or value it? Not my daughters. Not in the least.
Oh, it's too bad you've changed your clothes. Now you've become a proper young lady. You were prettier and more natural before.
This is more appropriate.
That's all prejudice. Whatever people have grown accustomed to is appropriate.
Are you feeling happy?
Terribly. Natasha and I are so very busy. Now I'm reading philosophy and writing a story.
Philosophy?
Yes, and everything becomes so clear to me.
How old are you?
I'll be 18.
In 3 months.
Are you sure it's such a good idea? Doesn't it get you confused?
Reading philosophy? Never. On the contrary, it helps me understand myself and all my doubts. I've also read your articles, but they are really difficult and I don't understand them very well yet.
Ah. So, what's your story about?
It's all about how one should love.
Anna is very sentimental. She dreams about a kind of love that should be pure and ideal, almost like a prayer.
There's the butterfly little brother wanted for his collection.
It's on the prince's head.
Oh, it's on his shoulders.
18 years old. I counted. Every year, every celebration, worried. Afraid that someone will... like this butterfly. Oops. And she is gone. This beautiful, lively, brilliant little girl, not long ago a mere child I carried in my arms, and all of a sudden, I've noticed that she's a woman.
The wedding proposal. Anna's story. The prince had a pile of music scores standing by the piano.
Anna, please, play something.
I don't feel like playing. I'm very tired today.
Oh, never mind. Please, play something. Here's one of Chopin's preludes. You play them so well.
Obediently, I sat by the piano and began warming up my fingers.
No one can instill the subtlest human feelings into music as well as he did.
I began playing almost mechanically. The prince moved closer to me, working up his courage.
Anna, I must speak with you. I've been meaning to do so for a long time, but it's so difficult. Has it ever occurred to you that this old family friend could regard you in a way other than as a sweet, lovable young girl?
I shuddered.
That he could feel that without this young girl, no life is possible for him, no happiness, nothing at all. Here's the thing, Anna. I'm not demanding anything of you yet. I merely love you in a way that no one has ever loved before. You may be amused to see your old friend lying at your childlike feet, but it's not at all amusing to me. I've been tormented all this time, and in spite of that, I ask you just one thing. If you think you won't be able to love me after you've become my wife, don't say anything to me now. Just reject me. It'd be better to endure that suffering now rather than later, after you've become my wife.
Yes, I will be able to love you after I become your wife. The prince seized my hands and began kissing them. Noticing my bewilderment, he made a joke of it by folding my hands and positioning them on the piano keys.
She had never been in love before. He was 27 years older than her, yet I always encouraged her to read, to dream. She knew. A girl, a woman, one knows.
I was measured for my wedding dress.
And later that evening, she lay in her bed. She imagined her entire future life and feared nothing. Neither that she might be unhappy for any reason with this familiar, kind, sympathetic family friend, because she felt that he loved her so much.
I always adored him. He is so clever, educated, handsome, and elegant.
But then she overheard something that the seamstress had said.
What did that woman tell you?
It is not important.
It is to me. He asked me to marry him. I said yes.
The prince is 45. He was never married. All men are like that before they marry.
I was on my bed, trying to calm myself. The prince entered my room, and I bid him sit down next to me.
Why are you so serious today, Anna? What's wrong?
I must speak with you. Tell me the truth, Prince, the whole truth. Did you love many women before me?
Oh, dearest Anna, what happened before, I can assure you, was not love. I have never loved anyone as I love you. This is something new, unexpected, and magnificent. It's what I never even thought of or dared dream about.
Please be honest with me.
You do love me, Anna, do you?
I want to know. I have to.
I will.
For the first time, the prince kissed me on my lips. I didn't move. I grew numb.
I told her that as a younger man, like all healthy young men, I had relations with women of various kinds. I was not a libertine, but neither was I a monk. I only turned to this, however, insofar as was necessary for my physical health, so I could have my mind free, and it went on satisfactorily.
Satisfactorily?
In the sense that, though I had been infatuated, I never contracted a disease. I stopped when I decided to marry you, and since...
And then he told her about what he claimed was his last affair.
The help of the Holy Christ, it was!
He told me, Mama, every detail.
And she believed him.
It happened right after my father passed away. May he in heaven rest in peace. I just moved from Moscow and taken over the estate.
Yes, Mama. I did believe him. His last affair. The prince's story.
Juicy piece of ass? Yes, master?
Juicy. I tend to agree.
Stepanita? Great tits. Yes. An ass? Yes.
You know her.
Everybody knew her.
Ew. Married.
Last summer, but
What?
nice. But
To whom?
no matter, he hasn't been able to do much. You want me?
Everybody?
They all do it.
Who?
Theodore's car.
By Michnikov?
I remember taking him out to the hut of the sexton's wife while the husband was out working in the fields.
He has 4 young kids.
What was bad in it? She was glad, and Theodore was himself satisfied. Very satisfied. And me too. I got a ruble. I got satisfied. Why? What was he to do?
You know, Igor, thinking about this, I myself, and I don't know how to endure it any longer. I am not a monk. My mental health and I have been accustomed to it.
What? Of course, you should have told me long ago. It can be arranged. Only tell me which one you want.
Oh, it is really all the same for me. Of course, not an ugly one, and she must be healthy.
Yes, Your Excellency, health counts.
What about her husband?
He's away in town, just the same as that soldier. Uriah from the old Bible? Believe me, she is a fine woman and clean. You will be satisfied.
Well then, when is it to be?
Soon, I hope. I'll let you know. Maybe even tomorrow, if you'd like. I shall be going to get some tobacco, and I will go to her house. And at dinner hour, come here, or to the bathhouse behind the kitchen garden. There will be nobody about. Besides, after dinner, everybody takes a nap.
All right then.
A terrible excitement seized the prince as he rode home. He was not himself all day.
Stefanida was naked under a sheet, lit by the direct moonlight. She shivered, trying to keep warm. The prince walked carefully. He broke a twig. He froze.
There is a path leading round. You should have gone round. I came long ago, ever so long.
The prince looked at her. She was barefoot, handsome, and smiling shyly. The prince returned a shy smile and suddenly held him passionately. She covered him with the sheet.
A few minutes, and then they separated. Are you satisfied, master? I swear here before our God who is in heaven, this was my excellency's last affair. Amen.
Don't you ever dare love anyone except me. Does she still live on your land? This Stefanida, does she work at your house?
Not anymore, dearest. Not anymore.
Yes, master.
Leave me now. I'll come out soon. The wedding. Anna's story.
The wedding ceremony affected Anna only slightly. She felt too paralyzed, as if she were turned to stone. The priest placed the crowns on the heads of the bride and groom. He wrapped a shawl around the joined hands of the bride and groom and led them and their attendants to the place of the Holy Gospel. The attendants held the crowns and circled 3 times around the Holy Gospel. The priest laid the crowns on their heads when all of a sudden,
Farewell, Mama. Farewell. It was so nice being at home. Mama, thank you for everything. Don't cry. Oh my God, please don't cry. You are happy, aren't you? The honeymoon. Anna's story. I waved to the guests who shouted their blessings loudly and threw flowers and rice at me.
I'm sorry, my dear, that our marriage has caused you such a grief.
That's not it.
What is it then, my darling?
Didn't it ever occur to you that I'd be sad to leave all these people?
Why are you addressing me so formally? Don't you love me? You still consider me a stranger, my dear?
I'll get used to addressing you informally, but for now, it just still doesn't seem natural.
But say you love me.
I think I love you.
You think?
I love you.
She saw his unnaturally excited face up close and felt his hot, irregular breath with its odor of tobacco and cologne.
This is what's supposed to happen. Just like this? Is it, Mama? You said I have to acquiesce and not be surprised by anything. Well, so be it. But my God, how awful and disgraceful. How disgraceful. Why do I suddenly feel so strange and uncomfortable with him?
The prince led us around the mansion.
For years, I have dreamt about a honeymoon with my pretty 18-year-old bride.
My birthday, Mama. Don't forget. In 3 months.
I didn't understand why she was so afraid of everything. I thought, what will happen in the future?
She was a girl that was not ready for marriage.
Everyone always praised and celebrated the honeymoon. I knew it was only the beginning, but started wondering if I'd get anything else from her.
Nothing else? He was committing violence on a child.
The honeymoon. The prince's story.
I waved to the guests, who shouted their blessings loudly and threw flowers and rice at us.
I watched my new husband with concern.
No matter how I tried to arrange our honeymoon, nothing came out of it. It was vile, shameful, and boring the entire time, but very soon, it even became painfully difficult.
When he touched me, I froze.
What?
What?
What is it about?
Nothing. I feel depressed without my mother.
I began trying to reassure her.
You don't believe me. You didn't even mention my mother. You don't really love me.
I walked Anna around her new mansion. The nanny and other servants welcomed Anna warmly. All of a sudden, her face changed completely. Instead of sadness, it expressed irritation, and she began reproaching me in the most venomous terms for my egoism and cruelty, almost hatred of me. This can't be. This isn't you. I tried to soothe her, but encountered such an insurmountable wall of cold, venomous hostility that I hadn't even managed to look away before irritation had seized me as well.
And then we said a great many unpleasant things to each other.
It wasn't really that. It was merely the uncovering of the abyss that actually existed between us. I didn't understand that this cold, hostile relationship would be our normal state. I didn't understand it because at first this hostile relationship was concealed from us by the appearance of concentrated sensuality, that is, lovemaking.
Not once did it ever occur to him that he had to cultivate that aspect of amorous love that he was so accustomed to finding in those hundreds of women of every sort whom he had encountered previously. Nor did he understand that her shyness with him would develop into even greater shyness with others and would assure him her loyalty forever. My little girl was not ready for marriage. She wasn't ready.
Really trying on a story. I watched her plant the field and sing. Suddenly, she stopped working, stood up, and smiled at me. Surprised, I returned a smile.
Your Excellency. You don't know me, Your Excellency. Well, Your Excellency, they're no longer hiring me as a servant in the master's house. Yesterday, Avdotya got to wash the windows, but she's no good at anything.
I started moving away, but she followed me.
I used to do everything myself. You've got to have the knack.
Sorry, but I don't know anything about it.
Yes, but you can do something about it.
It's not really my doing. The housekeeper, Pelagaya Fyodorovna, takes care of all that. Talk to her.
Such a young girl.
Go back to work. There was no time to chat. That's her. She used to be his lover, and he gave her a job. She'll spend the rest of her life here next to us, bumping into me, looking at me with that same rude glance, and everyone will know that I, the prince's wife, was the successor to this Stefanida, and he'll swear that he won't go back to her. Where are you coming from?
I was at our neighbor's house. We talked about the factory we want to build together.
Factory?
A distillery. It's very profitable.
You want to make vodka?
Yes, indeed. Why are you so surprised?
No, I'm not surprised. I simply don't understand how you can produce the one thing that so harms the common people.
Darling, please. I have begged you so many times not to interfere in my business affairs.
Vaska, please, don't hurry on ahead. A woman pushing a baby cart passed us. The prince looked at her. I have something I must ask you.
I can't get rid of the old habit of looking at every young woman from a man's point of view.
What point of view? The woman bowed to the prince. You can see a woman in that woman? Ugh. It's as if you had no other interests on earth.
I tell you how things used to be, but all that's past now. Now that I have you.
I don't believe it.
What is this, Anna? What a nasty character you have. It's unbearable.
Perhaps, but I hate dishonesty and immorality. I love purity, while you love the opposite.
You have no right to say this.
I do. I'm your wife.
My God, this is awful. Awful.
It's not awful for you, but it is for me. I entered the prince's study. He sat on the sofa, gazing around silently and severely. When he saw me at the door, his face assumed a malicious expression. Why haven't you come to bed?
Is it really possible to sleep? My heart's still pounding from all these scenes. It'll make me have a heart attack.
I'm very sorry that I upset you. Please, don't be angry. I sat by him on the sofa. The whole time, I watched at the door and listened to the sounds of the sleepy house.
She wanted to tell him, "Don't kiss me, please. I'm numb as far as that's concerned. After such spiritual pain, I can't be reconciled like that. I beg you to leave me alone and forgive me." But she couldn't.
Our second quarrel was something having to do with money. He said that I used money to dominate her. But Then there was a third quarrel, and a fourth, and I came to realize that it was no accident. It was how things were supposed to be, how they would continue. I was horrified by the prospect that I faced.
First baby. Anna's story.
Anna's first pregnancy was very difficult on her. The thought of her future child did little to cheer her up because she was so overcome by agonizing apathy.
He held my hand, and I positioned it on my stomach under the covers. You know it'll be soon. Perhaps today. How strange and joyful it all is. My own child. What happiness. I'll endure it all. I feel very brave. There it is, once again. I squeezed the prince's hand and moved it away from my belly. It passed.
Time to lie down, princess.
You're not leaving. For God's sake, darling, stay with me.
Of course I'm not leaving. Just calm down, my dearest. My dearest. Dearest. Don't be so agitated. It doesn't help.
The nanny signed for him to leave at once, but she kept holding his hand, and he stayed. 2 servants brought a screen divider and positioned it in front of the bed. The prince stepped out, but stopped and hurried back in when he heard the delightful cry of their child. She believed thoroughly that perhaps giving birth to their child would draw her husband closer and eliminate the distance that had so tormented her of late. And it did.
Praise be to thee, O Lord, and thank you for what you have given us. And thank my beloved husband. Beloved, always loved, is loved. Thank you, O Lord, for teaching me love. On our walls, we placed a family picture, myself, the prince, and our baby boy. Then, new sets of pictures. A baby girl was added to the family portraits, and another baby girl. We were now a family of 5.
It was pure happiness, the purpose of life, its true meaning. It was justification of her love for her husband. It was her future responsibility. This would not be a plaything as it seemed to her earlier, but once again a source of suffering and work.
The lover. Honest story. I was walking with the nanny who was pushing our baby carriage.
Excuse me, princess. Is the prince home?
No, sir, he is not expected until tomorrow.
I'm so sorry.
With whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
I'm very embarrassed, princess, that I so unexpectedly and uninvited came into... I'm an old friend of your husband. My name is Dmitry Alexeyevich Bekhmetov. I haven't seen my good friend in some 12 years, and I'm very sorry to not find him at home.
So you are Dmitry Alexeyevich Bekhmetov. I've heard so much about you. I feel as if we've been acquainted for a very long time. Come in, please, come in. My husband will be back tomorrow. Today you can be bored together with us.
I'm glad to, princess, if I won't bore you.
Upon entering, Dmitry energetically approached the piano. He sat and started playing softly. I told the nanny, he seems so artificial, and his voice, I can't say I like him. No, not at all. The prince told me that you lived abroad. When did you come back?
A week ago.
He also mentioned you got married.
Yes, princess. I was compelled to move away in search of a milder climate. My wife, you might have heard.
Where to?
I had been living with my wife in Algiers, but she grew bored there and we moved to her family home in Paris.
Do you have children?
No, princess.
Please, call me Anna.
No children, Anna. Then I grew to miss Russia and my family, and decided to return to the homeland for an unspecified period.
And your wife? Forgive me for asking.
Oh, please do.
Where are you staying?
With my sister, Varvara.
Alexeyevna?
Know her? I have not seen her for almost 10 years. She lost her husband and child.
I've heard. And she is now devoting her life to the peasants' children.
You do know my sister.
I visited her school and library, and I'm trying to help with the building of the children's hospital. Why do you have such an accent? You sound like a foreigner. The nanny came in and whispered in my ear. Tell him if he doesn't stop with his nonsense this moment, he'll be put to bed immediately. He has to learn to behave. No, let me deal with it. I'm so sorry, but I have to go attend to the children. Please stay for dinner. Dmitri was playing the beginning of the Kreutzer Sonata when I heard a carriage coming to a stop. I rushed to meet my husband. He saw me, but stopped midway and listened to the music. I'm so glad to see you. I was so worried about you, my dear.
Who are you with?
You won't believe it. It's your old friend, Dmitri Alexeyevich. He arrived yesterday.
Dmitri?
From Paris, by way of Algiers. I asked him to stay for dinner. I thought you'd be happy to see him.
I'm very glad to see Dmitri, but it's most improper for you to sit in tete-a-tete with a man you've just met. I didn't like him at all from the very first glance. But the curious thing is, some sort of strange, fateful force led me not to reject him or keep him at bay. On the contrary, I drew him closer to me.
I remember that you too had played at one time.
I no longer do, but my wife plays the piano very well. You are a very good piano player, aren't you, dear?
Please, darling.
Oh, you should have heard her with the Ilya Proshnikov.
Of the Moscow Ballet Theater? What did you play?
Mendelssohn's A Song Without Words.
No. Andante con modo.
Looking at my wife, I noticed that her face expressed delight.
My husband and I, we both so much love music.
As I recall, you used to play the violin.
I now play more than ever.
Well, why don't you bring your violin and play with my wife one of these evenings?
Oh, darling, no.
Oh, come on, dear.
I just don't think I'm good enough.
You heard Ilya.
You paid him, darling. What else could he say?
Please, do come.
As they walked towards the door, my husband helped Dmitri put his coat on.
I recall the strange feeling with which I regarded the nape of his neck. His pale neck, in contrast to his black hair parted down the middle.
Thank you so much. When should I come back?
From the first moment their eyes met, I saw the wild beast residing in both of them.
Dear?
Why don't you come again this Sunday for dinner? I'll invite several of our acquaintances. Our friends appreciate good music. We'll see you then.
Supper's almost ready, dear.
Sorry, I'm falling off of my feet.
What? What now?
Still don't understand how inappropriate.
I didn't invite him, but I couldn't send him away.
You didn't have to flirt with him.
Flirt? Me? Enough of that, my dear. Aren't you ashamed to say that? If only you knew how bored I am without you and how glad I am that you've come back. Let's not quarrel, please. Please, my love. I'm sorry for being melancholic lately.
What did you two talk about?
I really don't remember. We were talking about his life.
Why don't I believe a word of it? You won't tell me what you were doing or what you were talking about.
He grabbed my arm and squeezed it hard. You men are such egotists. He let go of my arm. Morning. We sat still at the table. I prepared the tea and poured it ceremoniously.
During their 4th year of marriage, it was somehow decided by both sides that they could neither understand each other nor agree.
What time is it?
Time for bed. Another day.
What's for dinner today?
Another day. Send for the doctor.
Masha has a sore throat.
Another day. I poured the tea.
I often feel so much hatred towards you. The way you pour out the tea, swing your foot, raise the spoon to your mouth, slurping, drawing in the liquid.
Have you noticed that your periods of anger correspond quite correctly and regularly to the periods you call love?
What I call love.
Then one of anger.
Then an energetic period of love. Then a longer period of anger.
Then a weaker manifestation of love. Then a shorter one of anger.
At that time, they didn't understand that their love and hatred were one and the same animal emotion, only from different ends.
It's fine for you to make faces, but you torment me all night with your scenes, and I have a meeting today.
It's fine for you, but I didn't get any sleep last night because of the baby. You snored like a pig. The way you behave, one might think that you are not his parent.
That's how they lived, not seeing the actual situation through their perpetual fog.
I didn't know at the time that 99% of married people live in the same hell as I did, that it can't be otherwise.
Moscow, Anna's story.
And then she was told to prepare for the biggest change of her life. My daughter, whose family and whole being was there in the country, had gathered her strength and left for Moscow with her husband and 5 kids. She hated the idea of moving, but didn't want her husband, the father of her children, to abandon the family and find impure joys outside it. After the death and birth of Vanechka, their 6th child, Anna felt unwell, and the doctor,
Scoundrel, doctors.
Ordered her not to bear more children.
And they taught her how to avoid giving birth, which I found disgusting.
Which you let me know.
But you insisted.
With tenacity.
And I submitted with rejection.
And for the next 2 years, their life together became even more unbearable. Welcoming their guests for a dance, the prince noticed that when she passed among men, she attracted their glances.
The music started. The prince and I danced first. We danced beautifully as the guests watched with appreciation.
Having no more kids, she had put on weight and grown prettier. It was like she had recovered from a state of intoxication. There is an entire blessed world with toys she'd forgotten about.
When Dmitri arrived, the prince became tense. He watched me losing focus. He watched me watching Dmitri's movement in the room.
My daughter believed that every woman truly loves only once. She loves her love and safeguards it until the right moment. And once she's bestowed her love, she protects it, preserves it, and closes her eyes to the faults of the one she loves. And if it happens that a married woman comes to love another man, then her husband is almost always the one to blame when the first idealized love transferred to another person.
Dmitri and I danced. Our movements were formal. We kept a distance.
I have heard rumors about you, Princess, that you're enjoying unprecedented success in society.
Who told you? If only you knew that I have no one here at all.
No one interests you, everyone admires you.
We stopped dancing.
You know that if anyone falls in love with a woman like you, it's dangerous. It's impossible to stop halfway and leave. It consumes you entirely.
So that's what you think. But such demands on love kill it, just as everyday people kill it.
How then, Princess, can love survive? That is, live for a long time.
Of course, only by spiritual connection. Such love is eternal. Death does not exist for it.
You think it's spiritual connection exclusively?
We resumed dancing. Dmitri pulled me closer. I pulled Dmitri closer. I don't know whether exclusively or not, but in any case, it's first and foremost, and it's undisputed happiness.
Perhaps you're right, Princess. That's better. Let it be so.
We stood looking at each other when, unexpectedly, the prince appeared out of nowhere and grabbed me for a dance.
He had never seen her like that before in high society, and her success and vivacity frightened him. Soon the party will end and her husband will look at her distrustfully, suspecting the most despicable and immoral things, and she'll be thinking about her lonely world of the children, and the struggle with fading feelings of love for her husband, and the burning feeling for love for another man.
I remember when you used to... but not anymore.
Just shut up.
He felt like killing himself. Better yet, killing her.
Just shut up!
I tried to leave. The prince grabbed my arm. Don't hurt me! You are hurting me! Children, your father is beating me! The nanny rushed in.
Oh, just stop pretending.
For you, it's all pretending. You'll kill someone and say it was just pretending. Now I understand you. That's what you want.
Why don't you just drop dead?
I ran out to the door, where the nanny was waiting with a suitcase.
Where are you going? The hell with you! I'll get rid of her. Fix all this and make it as if nothing has happened. I'll take revenge.
Yes, master.
I'll run away from her. Hide. Run to America.
America.
In America, I'll meet another woman. Lovely, warm, understanding, sexually reciprocating, and completely
Different?
I'll get rid of her by her death or by getting a divorce.
You called me, Your Excellency?
Where is Madam? Did she say when she'll return?
No, Your Excellency. Should I tell them to serve the tea?
No. Did you talk to her?
She is in a terrible state.
What did she tell you? What is all this about?
What have you done to her?
Me? Nothing. What did she say?
She...
Yes? What? What did she tell you?
that you, Your Excellency...
Me? It's all her doing. I won't take the first step, but tell her... If we separate, so be it. You tell her what I just said.
The prince walked around his room, restless like a prisoner. He sat at his desk. He tried and failed to write, so he drank and smoked, unable to find rest.
I will take the first step. But why should I? It's her fault.
Her fault?
Her fault. The first thing a woman should have is fear.
Fear?
Fear of her husband.
But what should she do if she doesn't love her husband?
She doesn't love him. She will love him. She will.
Oh, no, she won't. She doesn't. And if there's no love, it can't possibly be forced.
There is no love? There was love.
Not anymore.
She returned, carrying a suitcase. She was wearing her evening dress. I just wanted to say, I felt provoked.
He is waiting for an explanation.
I didn't come to explain, but to take the children away.
Are you...
We can't live together any longer.
Are you listening to her? You leave without saying a word. I sit here afraid that you'll hurt yourself. And what if I went to look for you? You're taking children? You? Did you think about the children when you left without saying a word?
And why did I leave?
So now again, I am to blame. You drive me out of my wits.
Don't say another word. You'll regret it. You'll regret it. The Kreutzer Sonata, the Prince's story.
They played Beethoven's Kreutzer Sonata. It's a dreadful thing, that sonata.
He took out his violin and began tuning it. I warmed up my fingers. I was nervous. We each arranged our scores. I played an A note. He answered, playing a pizzicato on the violin. Dmitri played a chord. I answered, and so it began.
The Kreutzer Sonata, that piece had a terrible effect on me. New feelings were revealed to me. At first, my awareness of this new state was very enjoyable.
The prince couldn't remain seated.
Music has always had a terrible impact on me. What is it really? I don't understand. What is music? What does it do? And why does it do what it does?
He got up suddenly and walked to the window. A hasty but peculiar sound came out of his mouth.
I'd never seen my wife behave and shine the way she did that evening. Those sparkling eyes, the severity and significance of her expression as she was playing, I didn't ascribe any meaning to it other than the fact that she felt the same as I did. That she felt new feelings, never before experienced.
When the sonata was completed, we bowed to a cheering audience.
And then the absolute melting quality of her weak, pitiful, blissful smile when they finished.
The prince hurried to join me. He hugged me with pride. Then the guests began to leave.
Thank you, Prince. I enjoyed it very much. I would love to repeat the pleasure of the evening on another occasion.
Why not? I have to leave for 2 days to attend the county governing sessions. What do you think? Sometime next week? He's getting so much better, aren't you? I'll contact you after my return. Thank you again for the pleasure.
Thank you both.
My dear and loved Vasya, the children are doing well. The new living room curtains have arrived, but I didn't like the color and sent them back. Dmitri dropped by, brought the scores that he'd promised. He offered to play again, but I demurred. We are waiting for your return. Rosa, your favorite.
I didn't recall Dimitri's promising to drop by and bring any scores.
Dmitri dropped by, brought the scores that he'd promised.
In addition, I found the whole tone of her letter strained. What nonsense. I've got no grounds. There's nothing to it. Nothing happened. Some hired fiddler known as a worthless type suddenly takes up with an honorable woman? A respected mother of a family? My wife? Ridiculous. But the reason I'd married her, the reason I stayed with her, was the one thing I needed from her. And therefore, this is what others must need from her, including this musician. And she... But who is she? She's a mystery. As she was, so she still is. I don't know her. I know her only as animal. And nothing can or should restrain an animal.
The murder, The prince's story.
Who is here?
Dmitri, sir.
Anybody else?
No one else. No one else, that's it.
And the children?
Healthy, thank God, asleep long ago, sir.
I could hardly hear Anna and Dmitri at the dinner table, eating and drinking. I used to think it was only my imagination. Yet, here it all is in reality. It's all here. I tried, but failed to determine what was going on inside. My jaws and hands trembling. Anna got up and walked out. I followed the sound of her footsteps with my eyes. And just then, the devil prompted me. Go on. Try. Be sentimental. While they quietly say goodnight, they won't leave any clues. I'll have doubts and torment myself forever. Anna returned with her tea kettle and cups. Following her usual routine, she ceremoniously poured 2 cups of tea. My sentimentality vanished immediately, and was replaced by a feeling of joy that now my torment would end.
Your Excellency? Shall I, Excellency?
No, don't. Go find a horse and cab and drive to the station. Here's my luggage ticket. Fetch my belongings. Go on.
Still in his wet, heavy coat, the prince tiptoed back towards the dining room. He listened at the door.
He was alone with him. At night. That showed a total disregard for everything. I'm an honest man. My parents' son, all my life I've dreamt of happiness, of family life. I'm a man who's never been unfaithful to her. No. She's not a human being. She's a bitch. A filthy bitch. What do I know? Perhaps she's been like this all this time. Perhaps she's been carrying on with the footmen and bearing their children. Who can now swear to me that they are even mine? The dinner table was fully lit. My heart is beating so fast I'm going to die of a stroke. She'll kill me, that's what she wants. But no, I don't want to afford her that pleasure. I sent for my Damascus dagger. I checked its sharpness.
I and Dmitri sat at the table sipping our tea. Seeing the prince, Dmitri jumped up. The boiling tea stained his trousers, and he had a terrified expression on his face.
If it had only been terror on her face, then perhaps what happened next wouldn't have happened. But her expression also revealed distress and dissatisfaction that her amorous passion and happiness with him had been disrupted.
I didn't expect.
In concertizing.
Darling? The prince rushed at me, concealing his dagger. He aimed to stab me right under my breast. Dmitri grabbed his arm.
Come to your senses! What are you doing? Help!
The prince yanked his arm away and silently rushed at Dmitri. Dmitri, pale as a ghost, darted under the table and out through the door. The prince was about to chase him, but my hand held onto his left arm. He tried to free himself, but I hung on even tighter, and I didn't let him go. Aggravated, he shook his left arm with all his might, and his elbow landed right in my eye. I cried out and released his arm.
I wanted to chase after him, but remembered that it would be absurd to go running after my wife's lover in my stockings, and I didn't want to be ridiculous. I wanted to be terrifying.
I fell on the chair, clasping my hand to my bruised eyes. I hated him.
I might still have refrained and not done it.
I grabbed the hand holding the dagger. Come to your senses. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? There's nothing to it. Nothing, I swear.
Don't lie, you wretch!
The prince tried to seize my left arm, but I managed to pull it away. Still grabbing the dagger, he grabbed me by the throat, threw me back on the floor, jumped on me, and pushed me down with his body. He began strangling me. I grabbed his hand with both my hands and tried to pull it away from my throat. He plunged the dagger with all his might into my side below my ribs. The dagger was stopped by my corset.
When people say that they don't remember what they did during a fit of rage, it's nonsense. Not true. I knew that I was stabbing her below the ribs and that the dagger would penetrate. At the moment I was doing it, I knew that I was doing something terrible, something I'd never done before.
He struggled to get through my corset until he felt something soft. The nanny, in her nightclothes, hurried to me. "Nanny! He killed me!"
Good Lord.
He hid the dagger away.
Maid, call the doctor. The doctor!
The prince ran.
I sent for my revolver.
He contemplated for a long while.
Have you heard what happened?
Yes, sir.
Tell the doorman to summon the police. The police! Now! Right this moment!
The prince sat down, put a cigarette in his mouth. The clock chimed 2. Roosters started crowing. The doctor entered my room. He touched my face. The clock chimed 4. I opened my eyes. Anna's story. Call the prince.
He probably wants to confess. If she does, I can forgive her.
It had to be. Forgive me. You're not to blame. But if I die, I have to tell you.
What? What? Say it for God's sake.
I was never unfaithful to you. I loved you as much as I could, and I will die chaste before you and the children. But it's better this way. Oh, I feel so tired.
Anna, I'm guilty before you. Anna, my dear, forgive me. It's getting cold. Quickly, get the children.
I wanted a different kind of love. One like, you're not to be blamed. You couldn't understand that. What's important in love. It's finished. C'est clef c'est l'infini.
Anna never recovered consciousness again. She died at exactly 7 p.m. There was something terrible in the prince's despair. It was a feeble hysteria of a child lost in the woods. He slammed into walls, shouted, moaned, threw himself down on sofas and armchairs, asking everyone to kill him, to send him to jail, to shoot him. His friends and relatives said that he was losing his mind, so no one raised the question of how she died.
The prince's story.
He probably wants to confess. If she does, I can forgive her.
Forgive me? You? You murderer! You evil! You devil! Wife killer! You are Satan. You got what you wanted. You killed me. The children, I still won't let you have them. My sister will take them.
And what about her guilt? Her betrayal.
Yes. Celebrate what you have done. Why? Why did it all happen?
Forgive me.
Forgive you? I'm dying. Forgive you. If only I don't die. Yes, you got what you wanted. I hate you, despise you, you repulse me. Well, kill. Kill. I'm not afraid. And Dmitri, too. He's gone. He's gone. I died. A guard came. The prince extended his hands. The guard handcuffed him. The servants entered the room, and the nanny, with their help, laid my body in a coffin.
Dear Anna, only now, when I see your dead face, I understand. I understand that I killed you. It's my fault that you, who were once alive, moving, and warm, are now motionless, waxen, and cold, and it would be impossible to remedy. Never. Nowhere. No how. No, please, arrest me. Judge me. I killed my wife. Please arrest me and judge me.
On the third day, amid great weeping, they lowered her into that terrible deep hole that would forever instill horror, and from which one always hopes to retrieve, even for a moment, the beloved creature who's been lowered into it on long canvas strips, and then sprinkled with clumps of dirt landing on the coffin lid.